think the best place to start most times is going to be the beginning. And so I'm going to teach you guys about pieces, about values, and how to use those pieces. But we're going to be starting with, by far, pawns. And so I'm going to walk you through the whole thing. But let me show you something just for fun to start with. And I'm going to show you the Opening Explorer. And in the, I'm sorry, wrong tool. First of all, I'm using Lichess. Lichess is a great tool for you guys to use in class, in real life, and playing whenever you want. But for as a learning tool, it's excellent. We're going to use it for class. It is Lichess, Lichess.org. And as you know, .orgs are because they're nonprofit. Lichess is a nonprofit organization, and it's a nonprofit tool. It's a nonprofit website. So it offers everything. You could give them as much money as you like. You can donate money as much as you like, and you will get no better tools or abilities or functions or features than you do if you gave no money. So it is totally free. Everything is free. Everything you get is free. And that's one of the reasons I like it. It's not the only reason I like it. It's great for teaching and learning because it has so much capability, and it seems like most of the capability they gave is around helping you improve your chess. So that is our primary website we will be using. If you don't have a Lichess account, you need to go to lichess.org and sign up. All right, that's like a critical step that you need to do so that you can get more out of the class. Your homework assignment from tonight, we will meet once a week, every Wednesday, 8 o'clock. Our streams will work this way also. You will do this via, your homework will be via Lichess. So you need to go out and sign up for lichess.org. All right, I will put it in the chat real quick, maybe, if I can remember it. Where, there it is. All right, let me throw that in the chat for you. There you go. All right, make sure you go out there and get an account. When you get an account, the first thing I want you to do in Lichess, once you get an account, I want you to find us, all the rest of us, and join us. So, and follow us. And by following us, you'll know when we're online, and we'll know when you're online. So down here in the bottom, which my stream can't see, but you guys can see because I'm sharing my screen, see all these people, all this long list are people that I follow. So you know John is on stream right now. Here's his account. And I can see that he's online. I can challenge him. I can chat. This is a chat. This is a challenge. And I can do those things because I've followed him. I've friended him. So you guys are going to want to do that. But the first thing to make that easy for you is I want you to go to Teams, but I'm going to give you a link, so you're not going to even have to go find it. I could put you in, in fact, we are going to put you in our chess class fall 2021 because the people I want you following are going to be your fellow classmates. They're your primary people that I want you following. I do have another one. I will put it in the chat that you could also click on and join this other team also. I'll be glad to have you. And it's the team I use for when I stream. So I will give you that one also. But the one for the class is the primary one I want you to join. And after you join the team, you have to ask, I have to approve it. After you join, you'll see the list of everybody in the team. And so let me go full screen for the stream. So all of these people are in my 4 live stream team as an example. And we have, it tells you up here, 134 people in the stream right now. Not in the stream, in the team, sorry, in the team. So you want to follow as many people as you like out of the chess class team that you're going to join. The 4 live stream team, you can also follow those if you like. It's up to you. Maybe only wait till you find people you like and you meet and you get along with. But for the class, you could follow every one of those people and you can challenge them, you can chat with them, and they'll know that you're in the class, you'll know they're in the class, so you know there are other students that are taking my class. So there's that connection right away, and hopefully you can use that to meet some new people and find people to play against. All right, so Bob, you're in. Good job. And let me go check the other team because I'm sure you've already asked to be on that team also. Yes, all right. Bob is in both teams now. And any other new students we get, I will tell them after class to do the same thing because I told you, we're pressing on, right? We're just going to keep going along. All right. So the board editor is really neat because I can move things around. I can erase things by putting things on top of things. I can even remove the kings. So the board editor allows you to set up any position that you like. All right. I'm posting Zoom links in Zoom because we are teaching a class tonight, Chess Wizard, and that is for our students that this class is for. All right, so on the board editor, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clear this board because I want to talk to you about the field that we play on, the chess board that we play on. It is a unique structure, right? Nah, use it in checkers too. But there's something special about this board. Okay, so Bob, since you're my newest student, I'm going to let you answer this question. We like to have you interact. How many squares are on this chessboard? And chat, you can answer it too. How many?
64.
Bob, 64, and you did that 8 by 8, right?
Yep.
All right, look at all those squares, guys. 64 squares. Bob, what happens if I were to tell you there's more than 64 squares on this chessboard? Would you believe me?
I'd probably believe you because you're the teacher.
Well, fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. Bob, is this a square?
Ah, there you go, yes. So many more than 64.
Many more. So your first homework assignment, and you don't have to answer today, is to find out how many squares are actually make up this chessboard. But it is important to understand. In fact, we're going to talk about ways to know if you can get to a pawn before it would queen. And there's the rule of the square, right? That you can be in this square. And if you're in the square with your king, you can catch it. So the geometry of the chessboard is critical to understanding chess better. And a lot of people don't even think about the geometry of the chessboard until they've been playing for years. All right? So, Bob, we already determined that the chessboard has many more than 64 squares. All right. I will ask any of my students, what's the shortest distance between 2 points?
Straight line.
Straight line. So a straight line is normally the shortest distance between 2 points. All right. So who can get to H1 first? White or black? Oh, let's talk a little. Let me make sure that we understand, though. The king, this is the king. Okay, online, this is what a king looks like. Versus in real life, right, we have a nice looking piece that you would hold. Like, in fact, this is a chess piece, right, guys? So, yeah. This is a king. Kings move only one square at a time. They can move in any direction they like. Kings can move any direction, diagonally, horizontally, up or down, but only one square at a time. All right, everybody good with that? All right. Kings, meaning when any piece in chess, they attack a square. They attack a square that they could go to. So my king, the white king, is attacking all of these squares. And if there was a piece in that square, the white king could take off that piece. And you would move your piece, your king, onto that square, and you would win that piece. And that's in real life, in person, over the board. We call it over the board, OTB, or online. You just move your king or any piece in chess onto a square it can move to capture what's there. In checkers, we jump over pieces to take them off, right? If you're right next to them, you don't take them off. But in chess, you actually, whatever way the piece moves, you move it to that square and it can take off that piece. Now, if the kings were like this, they could take each other off, right? Because kings move one square. There's a funny thing about a king, though, because a king is the most valuable piece that you have when you play chess. You can never let it be taken off. You can never put it into a situation where it could be taken off. So since this king goes one square, this king goes one square, I can never put my king here because now it's black's turn and black would be able to take me off. And you can never let that, that's illegal. So I can never put this king into a square that could be taken off. All right. Sorry, had to do that before we get back to understanding the geometry of the chessboard. So who can get to this square first, white or black?
I'd say white, because white moves first.
Very good, because the correct answer is who moves first, right? So if we just race, right? If we just race, and everybody has to take their turn, the nicety of this is that it's 8 squares for white and it's 8 squares for black. Now, we just saw back here, white was here, black tried to go here, and we know that's illegal because we just said the king would be attacking that square. So white would get there first. But if black went first, right? Oops, black still can't go here because he would, right? He'd be under attack. So black still can't get there. Poor king. That's not fair. Right? That doesn't seem fair, does it? So we could put the king closer, right? We could say, let's make it a little easier for the black king. And if it was white to move, because we're going in a straight line, now finally black gets to get there first. But is that true? Can white stop black from getting there before white gets there? We just saw that if we go in a straight line, right, we think this is the quickest way there. So how many squares was this that we have to travel? 7. How many squares would we travel if we went this way? Guys, with me? It's supposed to be, the shortest distance is supposed to be a straight line. But in chess, because you're moving a whole block every time, guess what? I don't need to go in a straight line. This is 7 this way. This is 7 doing this. Pretty interesting when you think about it, right? That white can try to stop black's approach, which unfortunately we still can't because he still gets there before us. So if we back him up once more, we can say, okay, I can come all the way out here, and now black not only can't get to that spot before me, but black can't even get to the spot at all. I can totally control that spot. So where does this come into play? Let's say we both had pawns here, which we're going to learn about pawns in a second. But understand that black is going this way and wants to get his pawn down here, and white wants to get his pawn down here. If I just go straight this way, black will get here and be fine. But if I actually go the long way to get there, because I should remember we can go this way. Oh, sorry. I can win this pawn. Remember, I can take any way I move. I can now win this pawn. But if I went straight, right? If I just went straight, trying to get over there, black is going to be fine because black actually blocks me out, right? Says, haha, right? Because I can't go here. And now we're going to draw or lose. And we'll talk about why it's a draw or loss later, because the pawn and the king both take these squares. So now the only square I can go to here. And now the only square I can go to is here. But I can force a draw by not going there, by going here. And now, and this is worth saying, the king can't go here because the king hits that square. The king can't go here because the king hits that square. The king can't go here because you cannot take your own pieces off the board. So this king cannot move. There's no other pieces on the board. If you cannot legally move, and your king is not under attack, right? Right now he's not under attack. Nothing can take my king. And I can't legally move any piece on the board. That's called stalemate, which is a draw. It's just a draw. So now we have a draw. All right. So that's the king. And that's a little bit about the geometry of the board. And we're going to learn a lot more about the geometry of the board as we go along. But we have 8. Count them. We get 8 pawns. Okay, and black gets 8 pawns. And people throw them away like they're candy. Like it's Halloween and they're giving them out at the door. Like somebody knocks on the door and they say, here, have candy. And we don't want to throw away our candy. We don't want to throw away anything. But pawns are actually pretty valuable. Pawns are extremely valuable because if I can get any of these pawns all the way to the other side, let me see if I can clear that. Get off. Let go. Okay. I won't let go. I forget there is a way to let go. No, I don't want to do that either. I just want to let go. Oh, this way. All right. So if this pawn gets all the way to the other end, it not only can, it has to become a different piece. Now, it can't become a king because we're only allowed 1 king per game. But it can become any other piece. Thank you, Sudakus. See, Sudakus helps me out. Lets me that you guys can't see the entire board. Nobody else is telling me these things on the stream. All right, there we go. So the pawn can get to the other side. It has to become a different piece. It has to become either a queen, a rook, a bishop, or a knight. All right? We're going to talk about the values of those pieces, but understand all of those pieces move differently than a pawn, and they're more powerful because of that than a pawn. And the nicety is you get a new one. It doesn't matter if you already have one. So we only get 1 queen. We only get 1 king. They're the royal family. You get 2 bishops to kind of look over those kings and queens, and each one, the king and the queen, like to have a bishop protecting them. So those bishops right here, they come first. And the bishops are from history, right? They're the bishop, the church, the religion. So think of it that the bishops have to give the royal family spiritual guidance. So they're right next to them so they can give spiritual guidance. By the way, when we're setting up the board, the queen and the king, and the dark squared king, the dark colored king, goes on the dark colored square. The dark squared king goes on the opposite color, the light square. And the same thing here. And this might be sexist. I might get in trouble in the future, but I will tell you my way of remembering that is that the queen gets her way. In my house, my wife gets her way. So the queen gets to be on her own color. So if it's a dark colored queen, it's a dark colored square. The king doesn't get his way. So, all right. So the bishops, they want to be right next to the king and queen, so they can give them spiritual advice. Each one has their own spiritual advisor. Now, after that, a knight, which they use a horse, but it's a knight, right? It's the guy on the back of the horse. It is the knight. It's Sir Galahad. It's Sir Lancelot, right? These are the guys that protect the kingdom. They are your main force protecting the kingdom, so they come next. And that's how we put them on the board. We're going to talk about their movement in a little while. Maybe today, maybe not. The last piece that goes on the board is the rook. Some people call it castles because the rook signifies the castle, the place that the knight is protecting, the place that the bishop will visit to talk to the monarchy who lives in this castle. And we have more than 1 turret. We have 2. But rook is a better term because you'll find out later that there's a move called castle. And so it gets confusing if you say, well, that's a castle, but I'm castling. So most people, we use rook. All right. Now, we've gotten that understood. Let's get to a little bit of fun. Right? We want to get to fun pretty quickly. I have it here. Let me go to my study. So one of the things telling you about that Lichess is going to be a major tool for you, and it's because it could do a lot of things. And one of the things it could do is allow you to create studies. And I have created studies. I will give you studies in the future, but you can use studies. You can also do some things that I will show you how for your homework assignment that you can use the tool for. All right. Let's get back to a study though. And I got to find my study that I want, and it's the one of my recently updated, and it's going to be this one. All right. So here is a board set up with pawns and kings. That's all there is. And we want to play a match with chess pawns and kings. And why do we want to do that? Because we want to see if we can figure out how to get a pawn to the other side and win. Now, when I play pawns in person, I don't even use the kings. And the whole job is to get your pawn to the other side first. Whoever gets his pawn to the other side first wins. Period. You're done. You don't have to do anything else. You don't have to make it into a queen, a rook, a bishop, or a knight. We're done. Whoever gets them there first. All right, so we could do that here also. And the way we could do that together is I can invite you to the study. This is how really cool studies are. So I can invite you to a study, and let's just delete everything on this. And so I will invite my students that are here right now. So Bob, do you have a Lichess account?
I do.
All right. What is that Lichess account, if you don't mind sharing it?
Yeah, it's just Bob Younger with no O, so BOBYUNGER. There you go.
All right. So the first thing I'm going to do is what I told you to do, which is follow you. All right. So now I'm following you. And if you find me, Tiberian, you can follow me. All right. So I've made you a contributor, and Murph is I'm going to make him a contributor. Okay. Now you both are contributors. So what I want to see you do at this point, and let me add LLMP because he's here too. He might want to participate later. All right, and this is the power of being with a study. So now if you sign into Lichess, and Murph, if you sign into Lichess, which I know you already are, if you go to the studies that you contribute to, and you find that by going to Learn, Study, and then you can see over here on the left, it says, let me go full screen for those who don't see, Studies I Contribute to. You're going to click on that. And you probably don't have too many studies you contribute to because people have to invite you to those. But you should see Introduction to Chess, Post Rules. So you both hopefully are in here. And then at the bottom left, you want to click this sync or make sure it's clicked. You want to make sure that is green with a check mark. Because the sync means that you see what I see. Oops. You want to see what I see. Make sense? All right, so either one can move either piece, but we're going to let Bob be white. Murph, you're going to be black. So Murph, Bob, go ahead. You move first. Oh, let's talk about pawns first. Sorry, almost jumped the gun. Nice move, but let's do a little rule checks first, if you don't mind. Pawns can move 1 square or 2 squares on their first move only. Once they've moved, like this pawn has moved, and so let's say black moves here, black can no longer move 2 squares. One of the great things about learning online is that it shows you things. If I left clicked on this pawn, guess what? It shows me the 2 squares that pawn can move to. It can move 1 square or it can move 2 squares. If I left click on the king, it shows me all the squares it can go to. It doesn't say I can go to F2 or D2. Why? Because there's pawns in the way. Please remember, or at least understand, that every square gets a letter and a number combination. So that in the old days when you first played with computers, you used to tell it, well, I want to move B2 to B4. That's how you would tell it to move, back when you had to type it in. But every square has a nomenclature to it. So it's A through H across, and it's 1 through 8, always from white's point of view, forward, 1 through 8. All right. So pawns can move either 2 squares or 1 square. So, Bob, do you know what en passant is? Bob, you're muted if you're trying to tell me. I'm going to assume you don't, but you have to unmute so you can talk when you're ready. So en passant is a special move that pawns make. First of all, it has a special move that once it's moved, it can only move one, even if it's only moved one time, right? Even if you've already moved it once, this pawn can only move 1 square because it's moved. And once this pawn moves, this pawn can only move 1 square because it's moved. All right. En passant is when you have, let's go back to this situation. All right. So this pawn now reached the 5th rank. And it's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It actually has the number 5 on the square. But the 5th rank for black would be here, rank 4. But it's black's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th rank. Okay, so we understand that. But right now, if a pawn is on the 5th rank, one past the midpoint, right? This is your half of the board, this is white's half of the board, and this is black's half of the board. So if that pawn is 1 square past his half of the board, and black on his move, see, he could go 1 or 2, decides to go 2 squares and jump right next to that pawn, white can be a little upset. White says, wait, I'm a lowly pawn. I don't get to do much. I get to fight very little, and you jumped right by me. Because pawns are weird. They don't take the way they move. Remember I told you that every piece in chess takes by going to the place where it can move. They take by moving to where they can move. Pawns are the exception. Pawns have a lot of exceptions. So pawns can move 2 on the first move or 1. Once they've moved, they can only move 1. Pawns actually don't take. They're the only piece that don't take the way they move. Pawns move straight forward only unless they are taking. The only time a pawn can move diagonally or any other way is when they are taking. So watch, I'm going to click on this pawn and we're going to get these 3 squares are going to all light up. All right, they all light up. And they light up because the pawn can go here or here or here now. But before we push this pawn, right, let's push this one. Now when I click on this one, this is the only square that'll light up. Because you can only move forward unless you are taking. And the only time you can move diagonally is if you are taking. So, pawns take diagonally, and we're just going to set this up. Now, when I click on this pawn, left click on it, it's only going to light up these 2 squares. Why? Because we don't take by moving forward. It is the only piece that doesn't take by the way it moves. So pawns move forward, can't take forward, it's stuck. But it can take diagonally. That's the only way it can take. And so when I click on it, notice that both of those squares light up. So pawns take diagonally. All right. So this poor pawn that decided to make it all the way to its 5th rank. I mean, it traveled 2 times. It could have traveled 3, but it could have traveled 2. But in any case, it made it to the 5th rank, and it wants to fight. And these are the only 2 guys he can fight, because he can never fight this guy because he's in front of him. And this guy says, you know what? I don't want to fight you. I'm going to jump by you. Ha! Because I can move 2 squares on my first move. C'est la vie. Well, white can say, you know what? I wanted to fight. I'm going to fight. But I have to do it right now. And if I click on this, you're going to see that this and this lights up. And so I can go to either one of those squares. And we know we can't go diagonally unless we're taking. So if I were to move here, it actually, you saw the computer, it'll remove the black pawn. You can make believe that pawn only moved 1 square and take it. Some people think you have to say en passant. You don't. You don't have to remember what it's called. You just have to remember it's allowed. And on the computer, it's easier because you could just click on it and go, oh, that's right, I remember now. I remember Marty said I could take that way. And there you go. You could just take that way. All right? So pawns can take, but it has to be right away. If white does something else, black does something else, if I click on this, it only says I can go forward because you could have only done it right away. Right away. All right? You take turns every time. You only get to move once. If you cannot move, or if you don't want to move, you can't pass. You have to move. Now, pawns are critical, and pawns have been said to be the soul of chess. They are very low in value because they can only move forward. They cannot move backwards. They cannot move sideways. They cannot move diagonally backwards. And they can only take diagonally. And they can only go forward and can't take the way they move. So neither pawn can move. They're stuck right now until somebody puts something next to them diagonally for them to be able to move. Otherwise, they're stuck. They don't get to move. They are not what we would call a strong piece. They're what we would call a weak piece. They have very little value. They're so weak, but they are the soul of chess. And they are the soul of chess partly because of their weakness. Because if you put a piece of value where they can take it, you're going to grab that. So if it's a knight, remember the horse, the knight, the bishop, or the rook, or the queen, if I can get any of those for a couple of pawns, I'm jumping at the chance. Because those pieces can move quickly and all over the board. Those pieces have a lot of power, so we don't want to trade those pieces for pawns. So that's one reason pawns are the soul of chess. Pawns can block up this whole board and make it so that your pieces, like if I had a bishop, which we'll talk about, which moves diagonally, over here, that bishop might have no place to go. Pawns decide the structure. They decide the battlefield. They take our 64 square, on that you're right, but there's more squares in the board. But they take our 64 square battlefield and can divide and cut up that battlefield in ways that restrict your opponent's pieces and free your own pieces to do damage. So just like in a battle on a battlefield, the pawns, the squires, the foot soldier digging trenches and foxholes, they kind of determine what's happening. You can have all the tanks, and you can have aircraft, you can have jeeps, I don't care, you can have artillery. The foot soldier still ends up being critical to every battle, and they usually end up being the one that wins or loses the battle. All right, so we're going to have you two play a game, and your job is to get a pawn to the other side. Now, like I said, I usually would do this with chess pawns so that you can do pawns. So let's try a test. You're going to play this game and never move your king. Okay, kings are not allowed. Unfortunately, I can't have you play this out without the kings because I cannot create an analysis board without kings. It would have to be in a board editor, and then we can't share it. So here we can share it, and you both can move pieces. So Bob, you have white. Hopefully you're still there. And if you're not, we can let Irv play. Good, Bob is there. All right. So Murph, it is your move. You guys are going to play this out. And we're not going to take back any moves, but we're not going to move our kings at all yet. And we're just going to play with the pawns and see if someone can get a pawn to the other end first. All right, you guys can do that. I will check on my chat just to be nice for a little bit. Oh, looks like you guys have been discussing it. LMP, I don't see you in my chat helping them out, but that's okay. I think Sudakus has. Thanks for being here, Sudakus. Patrick, nice to see you. Hello, Chess Wizard. Hello, everybody. I'm glad you can make it. This is a special stream, as the bot will tell you. Yes, it is. JSN, lots of JSN. I can't even, wow, you have a lot of stuff in your name, my friend.
We start over?
Oh, yeah, what happened? Why'd you start over?
I don't know.
Okay, so if you guys hit the wrong button, you might start over. Is this the way the game went? No. All right, let me clear it. Let me clear it so you don't have anything to go back to. And go ahead and try again. I know King. He wasn't the first. In fact, I haven't seen him in a couple of days. Hopefully, he's gone home for Christmas, or maybe he's just doing schoolwork. All right, we're doing a game I call pawns. We're not using our kings. Kings are the most important piece. Yes, we're going to talk about piece value in a little bit. Kings are the most important piece. That is true. They're also an extremely powerful piece in this game, and that's why we're not using them yet. To learn how pawns move. If you read the chat about or the instructions of what today is, we are doing a lesson from the very beginning. This is Chess 101. We're learning how all the pieces move. So the point of this is learning how pawns move. The benefit of this is because you are doing this with chess pawns, guess what? We're also learning about the end. So sometimes the best way to learn something is to learn from the end. And at the end is the end game. In the end game, many times you end up with kings and pawns. So this also helps towards that purpose. Perhaps black has an advantage and it doesn't matter. We're learning how the pieces move. And we're learning the intricacies of playing with pawns. Not kings, just pawns. I've been teaching this way for, probably about 40 years now, for beginners. First time they touch the chessboard, we do it with chess pawns. Now that's in real life, so I could just keep the kings off the board. A lot easier. And quickly they will see that they'll get to the point where they have to make a pawn break or not. But you would be surprised how many beginners just let the other person get a pawn go all the way through quite easily. This is a game that I call a game, yeah, but it's in a, no, it's in a study, so it's not a game. But we're playing a game, and all you have to do is get a pawn to the other side. That's all we have to do. First one to get a pawn to the other side wins. And kings, we're not using the kings yet. We'll add the king quite soon. Let me throw some music on in the background for myself, if not for anyone else. Guys are doing great. John, you're thinking pretty hard, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no clock in this either because it's not an actual game. So another nicety is learning how to use a clock, learning how to keep score. Both how to use a clock, how to keep score, you actually don't get by doing an online lesson. So that's one of those things that, Bob, you'll get when you hopefully meet with your club in person. Hopefully Irv or John or someone else will help you with keeping score on paper. I could discuss with you, but you don't have to do it because the computer does it for you. And the other thing we would hope you do is keep score and learn about how to use a clock. By the way, in real life, touch move is a rule. If you touch a piece, you have to move it. I highly recommend when you're trying to prepare to play over the board real chess that you do the same thing online. If you touch the piece, move it. I see a lot of people streaming that like to touch pieces all the time. Just touch, 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 touch. Don't want to do that. Most of them probably aren't even watching the stream though, so I don't think you have stream snipers. and what you're reaching, by the way, there's many terms in chess that you get to learn, like every thing that you do in life, right? Every organization that you join, every activity you do, every sport you do, every game you do, every business, everything you do, there's a language. There's a language to being a programmer. There's a language to finance. There's a language to every business or a thing that you could do. There's a language to chess. So we have the names of the pieces as we discussed, but there are a lot of terms we're going to be sharing with you. And so those will be there for you also. And we'll talk about them. One of the terms is Zugzwang. And Zugzwang is where we are right now for white. White has to move. He's compelled to move. But white doesn't want to move because of this. Right? So it's Zugzwang when you're in a position that you have to move, but you don't want to. All right? So that's a term that we use. No, we're not using the king. We're just playing pawns right now. First game, we're just doing with chess, pawns.
So what do I got to do to win here?
You're black?
Yeah.
You have to get a pawn to the other side. First one to get a pawn. First one to get a pawn to the other side wins.
F3.
To where?
F3.
So if I go to F3, I win.
Well, you will if he doesn't get a pawn to the other side first, yes.
Yeah, you 3 moves, you win.
That's it.
Yep, Bob's on top of it. That's it.
Now go F2.
Yeah, you got to get to F1.
So it's F1 I got to get to.
Yeah, you have to get to the other side of the end of the board.
Move to F2 now.
Well, the king, I don't know what you're doing with the kings. That's
We'll move it. Don't worry about it.
Kings don't move.
Right, so we'll just move it out of the way. We'll move this one out of the way. Now it's white's move again. And now you would go one more, Murph. And as we said, it has to become another piece. It automatically made it a queen. That's based on either your settings or my settings. But regardless, you've now won. Black won this game. And the concept that we're trying to understand is one of them is Zugzwang. That we got to this point, and right
At
now
that
it's...
At that point, his white pawns were all blocked. He had to commit a pawn for me to take to get through.
Exactly.
At that point right there.
Right, and that's called Zugzwang. Now,
Okay.
obviously, if our kings can move, which we're going to use our kings next game, then you could have just moved your king around, and it would have been a draw, because your king can never break through, and his king can never break through, and you wouldn't need to. So this would be a draw because nobody could break through. Logically, you wouldn't even try, because if you move, they'll just take you off, and then you wouldn't, right? You wouldn't get anywhere. But you don't have to because your king could just move around. And it is a draw if you make 50 moves without taking a piece or moving a pawn. Okay?
Taking a piece or taking a pawn?
Taking a piece or moving a pawn. If you take a piece, that's the same as taking a pawn. Taking anything. If you capture nothing, and don't move a pawn for 50 moves, it's a draw.
Well, I got the pawn part, but taking anything.
Yeah. If you don't take anything, so if I move my king...
A pawn is not a piece to us.
Sure it is. As far as what that rule goes, yes.
Okay.
So if my king just goes around here for 50 moves, and your king goes around here for 50 moves, and we never take anything off,
It's a draw.
we don't capture anything, and we don't move a pawn, it's a draw. That's the 50 move rule.
Okay.
All right, that's the 50 move rule. All right, so that was very good. Now, the next thing we're going to learn is about kings, because kings can take off pawns. Kings are powerful in the end game. Kings are, and this is how we learn this, right? We don't have to wait till we play a beginning and middle game and then get to the end game and learn that. We're going to learn the end game first. And so what we're going to learn now is we're going to play pawns again. This time the kings can move. the kings can move. And the first one to get a pawn to the other side safely. Safely. So in that last game, which I just erased, sorry. In that last game, when the pawn got here, if the king was here and you made it into a queen and the king took you off, that is not safely. So the first one to get a pawn to the other side safely, that gets to keep the piece that he turns to, it'll turn into a queen. So the first person that gets a queen on the board and gets to keep the queen on the board wins this game. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Bob, do you want to play again?
Give somebody else a shot.
All right. Irv and Murph. Let's see you two go at it. And then, Bob, you'll play the next game.
I was blocked before, so I'll go with white this time.
Yep, you can move either side, so it doesn't matter.
Irv, you there?
Oh, looks like he's not. Bob, why don't you go ahead and play? Looked like Irv got called away.
Okay.
We're going to use the kings, though. Thank you, Sudakus. And thank you, Montague. So again, for you that are new to the stream, I do have a moment I could talk to you. We are learning chess from the beginning. This is how I teach beginners that don't even know how to move the pieces. Our students may or may not know how to move the pieces. I don't care. I'm starting from the very beginning. And we're going to record it and throw it into YouTube for beginners so they can learn how to play from the beginning. And we're only working with pawns and kings right now. First game was only pawns. You couldn't even use your king. Mine too, TK. Mine too. No, I do, but actually, I can invite you. Give me your Lichess handle, the view Veneta. Give me your Lichess handle, and I'll give you view rights. So who's white this game? All right, Murph. So, Bob, one of the things I can already tell you that Murph is taking advantage of and you're not is, remember I said the king is a powerful piece, especially when it's only up against pawns. Some of the chat was saying, oh, but it's not good against powerful, like rooks and queens. And we'll talk about the value of those pieces and how strong they are in a little while. But in the end game, the king is very powerful. And if you noticed, your most powerful piece that you have on the board right now, Bob, hasn't moved. And so we'll see if that comes to hurt you, but Murph is doing correct by getting his king to be active. He's using his king to get out into the board, and we'll see how active he becomes. But that's a hint for you guys, because this isn't about winning and losing, it's about learning. There you go. Ask and ye shall receive. So if you guys are curious about the things you should learn from this, one, we are learning how pawns move. We're learning how kings move. We've done both of those. We're learning how pawns capture. We are learning how kings and pawns can work together and game most of the time. We are also learning about pass pawns and how powerful they can be. Now, we haven't had one in this game yet, so we have to wait. But pass pawns can be extremely powerful. Now, I would draw arrows for you guys like I normally do when I'm streaming, but I can't draw arrows because they're playing on an analysis board, and guess what? Everyone sees the arrows. So if I draw an arrow for you while I'm teaching you using an analysis or a study, you both can see the arrows that are drawn and the circles that are drawn. So it's a nice tool for teaching, again. So guys, think about how hard they're working on this game. And we're going to learn a lot. We're going to go over this game. But you would think, oh, the game should be easy. It's just kings and pawns. There's a lot to be done. And there's so fewer moves, right? There's so few moves they can make. But it doesn't matter how many moves you can make. It's the quality of those moves and trying to figure out the right moves. Even when, and that's why Busy and I both love endgames, is because of things like that. By the way, is Chess Wizard or anybody in the stream doing their work as a mod? Oh, I gotta make sure Sudakus is a mod. Let me go make sure of that right now. Where do I do mods? Oh, I remember. Oh, I know. I could just make you a mod. What am I thinking? If you weren't one, then hopefully I just made you one. If I did it right. I think I did it right. Oh, also, I should be able to look at your, let's see. No. Oh, you were just a VIP. Yeah. See if you're a mod now. Sudakus, can you type something in the chat? I want to see what your badge looks like. See if it says you're, I want to see if you're showing up as a mod now. I don't know. I think I could do it that way. All right, you're a mod now. Yeah, so if you need to ban anybody or time them out, you can do it. Power. With great power comes great responsibility, my friend. But with great power comes great responsibility. But I trust you guys. I wouldn't make you a mod if I didn't trust you. So Irv, you were going to play, but you stepped away, so. Bob wants to let somebody else try.
Thanks. Gotta take out the garbage.
All right, I predict this game is a draw. So let's stop. Let's stop and go back. Let's stop and go back, guys. Let's talk. Because you did have some opportunities. And it wouldn't be stalemate because you weren't going to get to a place where you couldn't move legally. But it would be a draw by the 50 move rule because neither one of you would move after a while, right? You just stay. So this is fine. This was good. Trading off for white. This is bad and maybe for sure, maybe not. So the problem with this is the pawn blocks your king out. So Bob, right? You're white, Bob?
No,
I am.
Oh, okay. So the problem here, Bob, is that, or Murph, that you can't get your king here. Your king now can't go here, and your king can't go here.
Right.
So what we want to do is we want to try to get our king to be the lead piece. Now, he could move here and make it interesting and problematic for you because if you push this pawn, he could push this pawn, it's all locked up again. And if you push this pawn, he could push this pawn chasing your king, all locked up again. Right? So this would be the move to stop you. All right, but let's go on a little bit because white did have a chance, and then black had a really good chance. So with this move, Huh?
I made a mistake on the next move.
You made a big mistake. So right here, and Bob, we're going to show you the mistake. He stepped away. And you took a long time thinking, Bob. What were you thinking about? Oh, wait. Who's black again? Bob, what were you thinking here? Because you took a while.
Good question. Oh, I was thinking H4, but then I thought he would just move his. Oh well, I should have thought that better, because if he moved there, he can't move there.
Right. In fact, if you see what happens when you click on the king, these are the only squares he can move to.
Yeah.
So now,
I was thinking he could block me.
Right. You were thinking he could come here?
Yeah, and that's not right.
But let's say he even could. Let's say he could go there. You could go here now. And you'd protect your pawn.
Right.
So he can't go there, which is even better, right? So now let's say he does something else. I don't know what else. Let's say he does this. Now you move forward. Now you're protecting the pawn and you're attacking this one. And guess what? His king can't move here. We just said that. So eventually this pawn will fall too. Because whenever he gets finished moving these things, he's going to have to move the king, right? Because he wants to move a pawn. But as you see, he has no pawns he can move without losing pawns. So eventually he has to move his king. And when he moves his king, you get to take this one. So, yep, you had a win right there.
Yep.
All right. Or at least you'd be winning and you'd have the only chance to win it. Now, you ran away. Black could run away because he can't break through, right? Whichever one he does, you just take and you're good. Now, white has a chance. Again, white has his only real chance is to go here. And he did, and he needed to go one more. So again, he did. White, John, you need to lead with the king. And so let's say the black just keeps doing what he's doing, which is, by the way, you have no way in, right?
Yep.
See how the king and your own pawn, the pawns, white's pawns and your own pawn keep your king out forever. All right, so John, if you came here, then you can do this. And if we take, and if he takes, now your king is right here, and his king is way over here.
Yeah, that's the step I missed. I
Right.
was looking for it and I couldn't see it.
Right. And now, of course, he doesn't have to, right? He could say, no, I'm not going to take. And you can, again, get this all crunched up where there's no place to go. Right? Because he could just take back, and you're stuck again. And you guys can have a draw. But your chances would have been to push and hope he doesn't do that and he trades everything and then he would be losing. Make sense?
Yep.
All right. So, again, we should learn that the kings get restricted by the pawns. The pawns do have some power here. Pawns that are locked in with other pawns don't get anywhere. So when we play the game from scratch, so let's play one more. I will play with, Irv, how about you and I play? All right. I'm going to play with Irv. And we're going to do the same thing. Yeah, good choice, Sudokus. That's a good book. I have another one too, but I like that book. I like that book a lot.
Hang on, I'm flipping the board.
Okay. I have a couple of endgame books I like too. Someone from one of my students actually asked me for information on all the books, like if they want to buy a book for one of their children or loved one. And they said, what books should I buy? So I gave them a list of books. So I want you guys to see the difference. First of all, both kings are coming to the center very quickly. Again, I'm not trying to win or lose. I'm trying to show you how you learn from this. All right. So both of these pawns are under attack. So I can teach you right now, Bob, this is a really important facet for everybody. This pawn is attacking this pawn. When you're under attack, you have 5 possible things you can do. One of those things is to run away. This pawn cannot run away. He cannot run away. There's another thing that you could do is put something in between. But pawns have to be right next to you, and kings have to be right next to you. So in this game that we're playing, you could never put anything in between an attacking piece and the piece it's attacking. But soon we'll be showing you other ones that you could. All right? that you'll be able to get. And I have to teach my guys, but you guys can use welcome for anybody that's new. Anyway, so you can run away, you can interpose, put something in between. Another choice is you could take the piece. And Irv didn't want to do that because he thought, this will just help him move his king even further up the board. So I like it that he didn't take. But that would be another option. So another option would be to defend the piece. Now it already is defended by the king. He should want me to take because then his king gets to a nice square. So you could defend the piece. And the last thing you could do is what Irv did, which is ignore it basically and attack something else of equal, pawn is worth the same as a pawn, or greater value. So you could have said check. So either one of those would have worked for Irv. All right, any questions? Hopefully not, but there you go. All right, so we could trade off everything here, right? So I'm going to take here first. Endgames are great to study, Patrick, and actually we start with endgames when I teach because they're that important. All right, so I did this on purpose I can go here, and this is called the opposition. Anytime you have kings against kings, and I can move my king into a position where there's an odd number of squares between the two kings, if I create that situation, it's called the opposition. And what that means is the king can't go here or here or here, so the king has to go one of these other directions because I moved here. If I don't go here, then the king can move sideways or diagonally. All right. But actually, I kind of want to go this way if I could. So we're going to have fun. We're going to go this way. But that's opposition. So Irv, if he goes here, he's creating an indirect opposition because it's sideways. Direct opposition is straight ahead. And direct opposition is also with one square between. But any odd number, anytime you create an odd number between the kings, you are said to have the opposition. And if you keep going where you keep that opposition, eventually the other king has to give way. Sounds good, Patrick? All right, so Irv comes forward with his king, which is good stuff. I'm just going to push a pawn and see what happens. So he did take the opposition, right? And Irv's taking his time because I think he feels instinctively this is a critical moment. He'd be right. It's probably a critical moment.
We're going to review this game?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
I'm just showing you I want to show you the difference of having an active king doing stuff versus being inactive. All right, so remember I could take on Passant. But I don't know if I want to take on Passant. If I take on Passant, then his pawn can take here, and we're kind of stuck, and then my pawns are all misshapen and not the way I want them to be. So I haven't decided if I want to take on Passant. That was a good move. It's forcing. It didn't give me a chance to push my pawn, which is what I wanted to do. So I just have to decide. If I go here, he could take, I could take, he could take. My king can go eat them, but this is the one that's going to be a problem. If I go this way, he could just go here and block me out, and we're not going anywhere for a long time. If I go here, he can't move one of those. He's got to take, really. And if he takes and I take, he doesn't have to take. He can push. So we're going to go this way and just see what happens. Again, I'm trying to win, but I don't care about winning. I care about us learning about the structure and what's going on. So we'll see how this goes. All right, so he pushes through, and now I'm getting into that zugzwang area where it's like, well, it's your move. What are you going to do, buddy? I could go here and try to get to this pawn, and guess what? That pawn is really close to queening, so let's just go for it. Ah, look, he says, no, 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 you can't do that. He's going to try to keep me out. And so now we're going to start playing with that old standby that we said. It's called opposition. So I can't go here because of this pawn. So now I'm trying to create a zugzwang situation like you guys had in that very first game and every game after that. Zugzwang is an important concept that you want to win back the opposition, because right now my opponent has the opposition. And this is where you calculate, right? I told you, you're going to learn a lot of terms. Calculation is when you're thinking of, if I do this, he does this, I do this, he does this, what happens? All right, so I think he pushed the wrong pawn. Because if he had pushed this pawn and I pushed this pawn, then his king would have an easier time of getting to me, I believe. But I could take, because when he takes back, my pawn still does all the same work. Or I can push here and keep his king even out of here. The other reason why I want to do this, rather than take, is if I take, he takes, it's my move again. Remember, I want to get zugzwang. I want it to be his move. So I'm going to do this to make it his move quicker. So now it's his move again, which is what I wanted. I want it to get to a point where it's his move, not my move. And I love the complications and the intricacies of just kings and pawns, guys. This is why we learn this, because it's full of intricacies and difficulties. So now I'm going to go try to catch the pawn, right? I can't let that pawn queen, because I think we said if you get a queen safely, you win. We could play this to checkmate, because Irv knows how to play to checkmate. I can't wait. If I wait one more turn, he gets the queen. So I've got to, and he's going to force me to use up my moves to take. Now his king has to come over. Now, I have choices. I think I can get up here and protect this pawn, right? I should be able to get here without a problem in time. So now I'm coming up here to keep him out. And so now it's his, remember, we're forcing him, zugzwang again, I'm forcing him to have to move. Black has to move, all of his pawns are locked in, he has to find a square. Guess what? I can give away my pawn. Right? Because we understand pawns. This is why we do these games. So you understand pawns. So when you get into a king and pawn endgame later, you're going to be like, this stuff is, I know this stuff. I've done it from the beginning. So we said a good place to start is at the beginning, but really a good place to start is at the end. It's a little play on words, but we're starting at the end, and the end happens to be the end game. Now, an important concept I'm going to show you, and we haven't even talked about how queens move and how to checkmate, but that's the next thing we have to talk about, because it's no fun, right? You want to win the games when you get there, and you win a game by checkmate. And checkmate is when you attack the enemy king and they have no legal moves. So remember, if they have no legal moves anywhere on the board, and they're not being attacked, it's stalemate. That's a draw. But if the same situation exists where your opponent has no legal moves, then it's checkmate if they're under attack. So that shows you all the places a queen can go, because we didn't talk about a queen. A queen moves just like a king. A king moves in any direction, but the difference is the queen moves exactly the same, but the queen is not restricted to one square. Okay, so the queen can move in any direction, but as many squares as it can go. Again, it can't go through its own piece, and if it were to go into a piece, it would have to take the piece. So an important concept for the endgame is I move my queen into a square where I restrict the king. Because the queen can go to all these squares, the king is not allowed, the black king is not allowed to get to any of these squares because the queen could take him off. Remember, you cannot move to a square that your enemy is attacking with the king. Other pieces, of course, can go to attack squares, but not the king. So the first thing we do is we limit his squares. He can't go to any of those squares. Of course, he also can't go next to my king, remember? You can't go next to another king. So there you go, he can't go to those squares. So I'm going to keep showing you this principle. Now the queen says you can't go here and you can't go here. And you still can't go, you can't go here either. So how many squares does he have? He only has these two to choose from. Giving him very few squares. And soon we're going to probably stalemate him, because I want you to see what stalemate is too. That I'm gonna make the mistake of giving him 0 squares to go to, guys. 0 squares. All right, he's making it tough on me. You want to keep that king towards the center to last as long as you can, because as soon as you get onto the side of the board, you'll lose quicker. But that's okay. All right, so I got to keep moving my king in, and so he's back to these 2 squares again, guys. And now he doesn't have this one either. So the queen is hitting that and that. All right. So I'm going to try to take away all of his squares. I'm trying to take away all of his squares. Let's go here. So he's got to go here now, because that's the only square he has. And now if I go here, where can he go legally? He can't go here because of the queen. He can't go here because of the king and the queen. Can't go here because of the king or the queen. Can't go here because of the king, and he can't go here because of the queen. He cannot move either pawn. They're locked. So this would be stalemate, not checkmate. You don't win. This is a draw. White and black just have a draw, as if they shook hands, or as if it was that other situation when nobody can move a pawn, or as if they had no pieces left. Only kings. All right. So, John, you want to go over this game? Where did you have curiosity?
Keep going.
Okay, because here I was saying that probably smartest move is to take the opposition. But I decided to make it imbalance and go after his pawns and make him go after mine and see if he could figure out how to do it.
Well, I'll stop you here for a second. You're going after 4 pawns. He's going after 2.
Yep.
And he's got 2 on the same side, so you can tie those 2 up, which you eventually did. So I'm thinking that the king going down after those 2 pawns is a mistake.
I think he's fine. I think we're totally equal right now, because I shouldn't be able to win his pawns and he shouldn't be able to win mine if we keep our kings here. I don't like that I'm blocking my pawn. He doesn't have anything blocking his pawns. So I think he's winning. But I did it on purpose. And if he had let me get all 3 pawns, there is a technique, which I know you've learned, John, in endgames to try to make a passer and win this game.
Right.
But here's where I thought, well, I liked his move, so let's go with his move first. And as we discussed, I had to do this. If he had taken, he would have had 2. I mean, this gives him 2 black pawns that I can't move here and I can't move there yet. I could go here. I could take here. I could take here, or I can go here, take here, go over here, or I could just go there. I can't even go here. So I would have to at least take off this guy first, then come back, take him off, then move out of the way, and then get that pawn down. Lots of work. So I think he's winning. The problem here is which pawn do you push? And I was thinking he should push this pawn. After this, though, it'd be white's move. So let's say white win after it. But I think if you go here, right, if you take, obviously you take back, and then the king comes over here and eats the pawn, right? And then you queen. And the other choice is if I push, now you get through. And then you come here and you're still going to eat it, get out of the way, and queen faster than I can. Right? I can't even go here yet. And I can't go here. So with this situation, right, it would be white's turn. And I think black should have won easy. Because all we had to do would be the first one to get a safe king. But even without it, he could go here and win the game anyway. So I thought black should win this game but he had to push the right pawn. If he pushed this pawn, I push this pawn, his king still can't get in because of this guy. See, both squares are taken. And then he would have to go a long trip if you want to get to this pawn. Or you could take this one first and then go there, but it would still be a long trip, right? So by pushing this pawn, he'd have a much shorter trip. And taking it doesn't help because now he still has a short trip. So I think Irv should have won that game. And again, I wasn't worried about winning and losing. I just want to, and it's good for him to learn, right? So here when I did that, he has to take. And even with the push, it's now white's turn. And what did I do? I moved my king up because I even told him, right? Hey, I'm going after that pawn. So imagine it if you had taken Irv, that getting that pawn does me no good because I don't have a white pawn to get down there. And so at this point, you win by pushing this pawn your next move. And so I could do that. I could also stall a move. And then you still get this move in. And then I can't let you take, same way you couldn't let me take. And so I have to do this. And then you get in. And my best move is going to be to wait and try to trap your king because I'm in trouble. In fact, I can't even wait. I can't go here. I can't go here with my king. I can't even wait. I would want to go here and wait. I can't. I'd want to go here. So when you go here, I could go here and try to trap your king. I can't do it even. My king has no place good to go. And so you would win. So you had that game won, in my opinion. Okay? All right. All right, guys. Hopefully that was logical and made sense. All right. We go for an hour and a half for the lesson. We have 9 more minutes left. So let's talk about checkmates and let's talk about how the other pieces move. Next week, we will do games. We will do games where you'll have things like this and this. And we'll get to play with bishops, kings and bishops. We'll play with kings and, this is an example game. We'll play with bishops and knights. We'll play with knights. We'll play with rooks. We'll play with 2 rooks. We'll play with queen versus rooks. So this is all things we do. Again, starting, not at the beginning, but we're actually going to start at the end. To learn something about endgame is a better way for me, I believe, for you to learn how the pieces move. All right, so we need to go back and talk about, though, just real simply, we want to talk about how you checkmate. And kings and queens and bishops and rooks and knights. I do want to go over the pieces for a moment. So the queens, remember, can go as far as they like, and they move like a king. Some people like to say they move like a bishop or a rook. So let me go to a board editor. And I've learned my lesson. I need to move this over for the stream. All right. So from here, let's clear the board. Bishops are, the problem with a bishop is that they don't get to change color. So bishops move diagonally only, and if you know this, that's okay. I'm just going over it again. Bishops can only move diagonally. They only can go in a straight line first. So I can't like go here, here. I can't go here, then turn here, all in one move. But I can go here, and then the next move I could go here, and the next move I could go here. But each move I can only move one. These bishops can never be on the same color because they're diagonal pieces only, and so they'll never be on the same color, guys. So these bishops can never protect each other. They can never protect each other. But they're powerful because look how much they can cover. They can go really far. And a bishop right here gets to do this whole diagonal and these two squares. So this is a nice square for a bishop. This is a nice square for a bishop. Covers a lot of squares. So bishops cover a lot of territory, so people think they're pretty powerful. Knights on the other hand, are very strange pieces. In fact, we won't even do knights first. We already said queens and kings. Let's look at rooks first. Rooks move straight. Where bishops move diagonally, rooks move straight lines. And the nicety of a rook is they could change color. I'm on a dark square, I'm on a light square. I'm on a dark square, I'm on a light square. I can change colors. I can go as far as I can go. Again, you can only go as far as either a piece is in the square. If it's your piece, you can't go through it. So the best you could do is move right next to it. If it's the enemy piece, then you could actually go all the way through it. You don't have to, but you can't hop it. You can't say, well, I'm going to go over here. You can't do that. You could take it or stop short. And of course, I could go this way. So notice that rooks can talk to each other. I call them talking, but they can protect each other. So two rooks together, they can protect each other. So let's say your king is here. I can take that bishop. Your king can't take back because the other rook is protecting me. So that's the strength of rooks, is they could actually work together and they could change color. They can dominate a whole row. Look at this rook on this 7th rank. This king cannot move up ever. And if the king runs over here, right, white is making all these other moves, and now he says, I'm going to get your rook, the rook could just say, no. And the king says, I'm so tired. I got to run all the way back over here again. And of course, the whole time the king is running, you could be doing other things as white. So rooks are very powerful. All right, knights are the strangest piece. Pawns are strange. Knights are strange too. Let's talk about knights. So knights move in an L shape. Now, the one thing that I like about chess.com more than Lichess is how you could draw a knight arrow. I can actually draw an arrow in chess.com that actually turns the corner. I'm waiting for Lichess to fix that, guys. All right. But anyway, so knights move in an L shape. 2 like a rook, and then 1 like a rook, but to either side. 2 like a rook, and then 1 like a rook to either side, and I can't go off the board, so that's as far as I can go. Because of that, knights have strange powers. So let me put a pawn. I'm going to put a pawn everywhere that knight can go. Right now, that knight can hit all of these squares. All right. That's only 3 squares, guys.
Fix the one on the
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Sorry. And notice that all the squares are light squares, white squares. And the knight is on a dark square. So the knight always changes colors every move. Every move the knight changes colors. So if the knight goes here, this is, and by the way, the way that the knight is moving, understand that it's actually going to that square regardless. So I can go to this square, I can go to that square. I can't go to this square because I have a piece of my own color, right? There's a pawn there. So I can't go to that square. If it was an enemy piece, I could take it. But it doesn't matter about these pawns. They're not in my way because I'm actually not going 2 squares into the right. I am leaping into that square. I am leaping into that square. So knights are the only piece that jumps over pieces. And so guess what that means? Remember I said you cannot block a pawn? If this pawn is attacking this pawn, there's no way to put anything in between, right? Guess what? You can't put anything in between the knight that's attacking you either because the knight hops over everything in its way and it just goes there. So you cannot block or interpose a pawn, a king, or a knight. You cannot interpose or block a pawn, a king, or a knight that is attacking you. Okay? All right. No, not yet, Randy. We're not doing mates yet. We're just talking about how the pieces move, but we're going to do mates soon. So there you go. All right, so the first move, if this pawn has been moved, the knight can go here, here, or here. And this is the worst square real quick, because from there, right, if the knight goes there, he now attacks 4 squares. And you think, okay, well, you got 4 squares. That's better than nothing. Before he moved, he was only attacking 3 squares. But over here, he's only attacking 4. 4. Now, here. Now, if the knight ever got in the worst square possible, if the knight ever got into the corner, he's only attacking 2 squares. So if you haven't figured out, the further the knight gets away from the corner, the stronger he is. So from here, his first move here, he's further away from the corner. Remember, over here he was 2, right? He wasn't. He was only 2 squares away, and he only attacked 4 squares. And now he's only 3 squares away, but unfortunately he's also near the edge of the board. So that's another factor. But near the edge of the board, now he attacks 6 squares. So he's doing better. But if we went to his best square, he actually attacks 8 squares. Also notice the shape. It looks like a circle he's trying to make. And the knight, because he makes this circle, has a power that's really, really kind of cool. If you take a look at this, he is attacking all of these squares at the same time. You wouldn't have 2 black bishops, so let's move that one off. Hopefully you don't have 2 queens against me already, but you have a king. All right. So this knight is attacking every one of these pieces simultaneously. And that's called a fork or a double attack, even though in this case it's a 8 attack. But it's, right, he's attacking multiple pieces at the same time. The only piece that a knight attacks that can also take back the knight is another knight. So if you look, the rook can't hit the knight. The queen can't even hit the knight. Look at that, the queen with all of its flexibility cannot hit the knight. The bishop can't hit the knight. Remember, it's on a white square. It attacks a black square, so a bishop can never attack the knight that he's attacking. And the rook doesn't, and the king is too far away. So the only piece, if you attack it, that can also attack you with a knight is another knight. Right? So that's not true with a bishop. If I had a bishop out here, well, if it's attacking the rook can't attack the bishop. That's true. Right? He can't attack. So the bishop is the only one that if you're attacking me, I can attack you. But that's true also with the queen. If you're attacking the queen, I can attack you. And if you're attacking the king, I can attack you if you're next to me. The king could be far away and I can't get you back. But there are instances where this happens. But none of those are true with the knight. With the knight, you cannot, none of the pieces that you're attacking, except a knight, if you're attacking it, can be attacked at the same time. So it's a very unique piece. And every time it moves, it changes colors. And every time it changes colors, that means it's attacking things on those other colors. And one of the most powerful pieces when you're a beginner is the knight, because people don't see these things, right? You get forks all the time with the knight. And so it's a powerful piece. All right. So we talked about all the pieces and how they all move and their strengths or minuses. Our last part of this lesson, next week, we will get, well, if we go, I don't know, Irv, did you tell Bob we're only doing hour and a half?
That's what we had publicized. Yeah.
All right, so we will stop the lesson after this, but next week we will go over how you checkmate. But actually, Bob, you guys can do this as your homework, and we will just review it. We'll just be able to review it instead of actually having to do it. But one of the things I want to do real quick is, Bob, you're going to tell me, because you're my new student, what's the value of the pawn? How much worth do you want to give the pawn, Bob?
How much work?
Worth. So you guys are in the finance world. What would you give
worth.
Yeah, and we can use American money for now. How many dollars do you want to? We got to assign it a value. What do you want to give it?
$1 is good.
$1. I like $1. I like whole numbers. Great. A pawn is $1. All right. How much value do we want to give to the knight?
The knight is probably like $5.
$5. Now that's a great guess, especially because I told you how powerful the knight is. But the knight also has some restrictions, right? So knights can protect each other. If that knight is, they could actually protect each other like a rook can. But it takes a knight a long time to get over to a different part of the board. He's not very fast. And in fact, I shouldn't tell you, but bishops are known to be thought to be even more powerful, more valuable than knights in general. But anyway, we're going to say a knight is actually worth 3. And why is that important? That's because that knight is worth 3 of your enemy's pawns. So if pawns are worth 1 and knights are worth 3, and I trade my knight for all 3 of these pawns, and you get my knight and I get these 3 pawns, we're said to be equal still in material. And we're going to talk pretty soon about how just because that is the rule we're using doesn't mean that that knight is always worth those 3 pawns. Sometimes these 3 pawns are worth more than a knight. When those 3 pawns are maybe like here ready to go queening, right? If I put these 3 pawns over here, or even 2 pawns, these 2 pawns are worth much more than a knight, right? And remember we said a knight was worth 3 pawns. So this should be worth 1 more pawn than these guys. But right now, that knight cannot stop you from queening. I can go here if it's white's move. I can go here if it's white's move. If it's black's move, I can't stop you from queening. I can take this one will go forward. If I go here, he can laugh at you and take it or go forward. Right? So these pawns this far up the board are worth more than this knight. You with me on that?
Yep.
And how about I go here? If the pawn were here, this 1 pawn is worth more than this knight. Because this knight cannot stop me from queening. And you might say, yeah, so that pawn is worth more than a bishop too. If the bishop is here and I'm about to queen, yes. So everything is situational, but we need to have a rule set so we know what's a good trade or not, especially in the beginning of the game, not when a pawn is about to queen. All right, so knights are 3. What would you give a bishop?
$4.
$4. I like it. I like it, but nope, we're going to make it 3. Now, pundits will tell you it should be 3.5. Should be $3.50 because they say bishops are a little bit better than knights because they have such long range. But it's, again, situational. And I'm going to offer as any beginner out there, anybody, even 2,000 and below Lichess rating, 2,000 or below Lichess rating, I'm going to say treat them as equal because I've not seen a 2,000 and below Lichess rated player that understands the benefit of the 2 bishops, the power of the 2, because you'll hear them say it, Bob. They'll say, oh, I have the 2 bishops, I'm winning. And they won't know why it's a benefit. And if I had 2 knights against your 2 bishops, which remember, we're going to do a practice game next week with that situation, you'll find that the knights, because they're so tricksy, I like to call them tricksy because they change colors and they fork pieces and they're hard to see what they're going to do. Knights for 2,000 below, awesome. So we're going to make them at best equal. All right? You with me on that?
Yep.
All right, 3, 3. Okay, what are we going to give for a rook?
$4.
4. I like it. We're going to give them a little bit more. 5.
5, okay.
These guys are going to be worth 5. They are worth a knight and 2 pawns, or bishop and 2 pawns, or just 5 pawns straight out. Again, everything is situational, right? If I had 2 pawns down here and you have a rook, those 2 pawns are worth more than that rook because you can't stop them, right? You could take one of them, but then the other one gets to take back. So it's all situational, but yes, a rook is worth 5. All right, how about the queen, Bob?
10.
10, I like it, and I agree. I totally agree. Now, I'm going to have people in chat, I'm going to have people in the world tell me, nah, queen is worth 9.5. or queen is worth 9. A lot of people like to go with the queen worth 9. And again, I argue, Bob, if you're 2,000 or less Lichess rated, do you want the queen or do you want 2 rooks? Because 2 rooks are worth 10, Bob. I can add 5 and 5 is worth 10. Do you want that or do you want the queen?
I want the queen.
Yeah, because below 2,000, you'll do better with a queen normally. Plus, a queen can usually do another kind of draw. And that kind of draw is called perpetual check. And if you could just keep checking your opponent and he can never get out of check, and you could just chase him around the board and he can never get out of check, it's a draw. So, rooks are hard to do perpetual checks. Rooks need to talk to each other. If this rook is over here and this rook is way over here, this queen is probably going to be more powerful because these rooks aren't talking to each other. They can't protect each other. A lot of times bad things happen because, like, your king might be here and I'm able to go, where can I go? I want to go somewhere, actually, because you're on white, it's really hard, Bob. So let's put you on a black square. So I can go here and attack them both. And you could be here, and I could go here and attack them both. And then I'm going to snarf off that rook, and then a queen is definitely worth more than 1 rook. So I like the queen to be 10. Although, again, people will argue that it's worth 9 and that the 2 rooks are better. And again, if you're a really strong player, over 2,000, and you have 2 rooks, you might be able to bring home the win. But remember, even at 10 and 9, that makes the rooks only worth 1 pawn more than the queen. So if you had a queen and a pawn against 2 rooks and no pawns, you're equal in material. Last one, Bob. How much do you want to make the king worth?
Jeez, I've been trying to think because...
You knew what was coming, Bob?
I knew it was coming, but I'd say invaluable.
Very good. It's like that old credit card commercial, right? It's priceless. The king is priceless. Because, you can't lose the king, right? You only get one. You can't get another one. And if you lose it, the game is over.
Yep.
All right, so what did we cover today? Let's, if you don't mind, this is what I'm covering. And, Bob, you can see it because I'm sharing my screen. So what we're doing is, I didn't talk about etiquette. I will now move that to next week because I forgot etiquette. I didn't talk about the difference. I did talk about a few things, the difference between online and over the board. I will cover that next week because I went out of the order. I didn't look at my cheat sheet. We did talk a little bit about Lichess. I'm going to show you about this part right here because you need that for your homework. And then we quickly got into pieces. We defined check. We defined checkmate. We didn't define an illegal move, which is just any move that's illegal, right? Like you can't move into check. So we'll do more because there's also castling and what's legal to cast and what's not. We did cover en passant. Promotion is when you take that pawn and you make it something else. We did cover stalemate. We did cover draw. We did not cover threefold repetition. So I will use this to review and prepare for next week to make sure that I cover all the things I missed. All right? So today, what we covered, though, as a reminder, was how pawns move, how the kings move, how all the other pieces move, the value of the pieces, and how kings and pawns work together. That's really that's the focus that we had today. Now I need you to later go into Lichess, and you're going to go to Learn, and you'll see that you have chess basics, practice, coordinates, and let me get to the analysis board so everybody else can see a little easier. And let me go to full screen. Okay, so in Lichess, and this is for everybody, this is a great tool, guys, great tool. Go to Learn, you have chess basics, practice, coordinates, and if you clicked on coordinates, it's going to give you exercises for you to train on A through, remember this is A through H, and this is 1 through 8. All right, so I've never done this one. So it's what does it say? Oh, C2, B7. So it wants you to identify C2, I guess, because that's C2. And then you have to identify B7. Then you have to identify G5, just squares on the board. Then you have to identify B3. So this is kind of cool. And you notice that the letters are not there. So it helps you get used to where the squares are. That makes sense. I like it. All right. So you could do that if you like. All right. We're not going to keep doing that. So that was under the coordinates. The next thing, feel free to go do that, but you'll learn it as it goes. That's not something you need immediately because that only comes in handy when you're keeping score or if someone's discussing with you saying, well, how about knight to bishop, knight to b7, and you're like, what's b7? So not important for you to do coordinates for your homework. But homework for everyone is going to be to do the chess basics. And when you click on chess basics, you'll see these. And unless you've already done them, they won't be green. When they're not green, they're going to look like, let me go to practice, they'll look blue. So when they're not done, they'll be blue, and they'll tell you how many exercises there are. So I've done 0 of these exercises out of 12 exercises. All right, but all I want you to do for next week is the basics. You don't have to do the practice one. That'll be a later homework assignment. So it will show you how the rook moves, how the bishop moves, the queen, the king, the knight, and the pawn. We went over it, but now you'll get to practice it. And it'll show you, and it says you have to move it to the star. And yay, I did that. And it'll say, okay, now get to this square by going to this square first and then to that square. So you're making 2 moves. Black isn't here making moves, so it's just to show you, how it works. All right? So it's going to say, oh, you need to hit all of these, but it's not telling you how to get to them. But it says the fewer moves you make, the more points you win. So you got to figure out, how can I do this in the fewest moves possible? So I think I can go here 1, 2, 3. I don't see that I could do it any faster. I mean, if I go 1, 2, 3, 4, that'd be longer. So I believe this would be my fastest route. And since it was 3 squares I had to hit, I only moved 3 times. That should be about the fastest I can go. And so the same thing here, right? So you do it. This is what you would do. You'll learn how the rook moves, the bishop moves, the queen moves, the king, the knight, and the pawn. So before next week's class, when we get to next week's class, you should show me that all of these top ones are green. Okay, that's your homework assignment for that. I'd like you to take a step further and actually do capture, protection, combat, check in 1, out of check, and mate in 1. But if you don't get to them, that's okay. Required, the top 6. The next 6, if you can get to them, we'll press on faster. We will review the mates, especially mates in 1, but all mates, we will be reviewing them and practicing mates. But if you could do it in here first, that's awesome. So do as much as you like. You can go and do them all, right? You can do them all. But for next week's class, you at a minimum should do these and try to get some of the fundamentals done. But again, it's not required. Any questions?
I've got one for you.
Shoot.
We have somebody that wants to do your live stream. We can't find the group. It's live dash stream or / live stream or something. What exactly is it?
Yeah, so my stream, I'm putting in the chat. That's how you get to my stream. If you want to join the team, which is I think what you're saying, the live stream team, that's something different. Let me go get you that. I can try to remember it, but it's easier to just copy and paste it for you. Yeah, sorry. Now I got to go to chat again, and there you go. That's how you join the team. It's a 4 live stream, and it's dashes in between. And for anybody in the chat that wants to join the team, if you've hung out this long, you can join our team also, and we have tournaments and other things going on. All right, so again, guys, we are starting at the very beginning. We will be I'll be making highlights and saving these to YouTube, so that if you know someone that wants to learn how to play chess from the beginning, we can help them out, right? They can learn it. And so that's one of my goals, is to help you learn, and I will be doing that for them. So feel free to invite them, tell them about it, get them there, and that'd be great. So I lost my chat. I just destroyed it somehow, but that's okay. I don't know where my chat, I just lost my chat. Oh, la, 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 la. Let's see if I refresh, if it'll give me my chat window back. Yeah, there it is. I lost you guys. My fault. I tried to shrink you a little bit. Instead, I lost you altogether. All right, other questions. So that's how you join the 4 live stream team. And then we have tournaments like a qualifier for World Championship. And for you guys in chat, we do have a World qualifier for the World Championship under 2,000 for the month of December. Hey, Tony, how are you? No, I have not. I have to look at Queen to E2. What move? So, all right, guys. Any other questions from class?
That's it for me.
All right, Bob. Any questions?
No, all good. Thanks, Mark.
All right, we are starting. I definitely don't mean to insult anyone. We are starting from the very beginning as if you know nothing. And if you know stuff, we'll just go through it faster, but we still want to go through it because we want to make sure that we're not missing anything. And I like starting at the end, and when you learn the basics of king and pawn endgames before you even do anything else, you'll be able to use that throughout, right? You'll always be able to use that. That'll be useful forever. Too many beginning players don't understand anything about the endgames, and part of it is funny that they never get to endgames. I've had beginners tell me, why do I need endgames? I never get there. I either lose in the first 5 to 10 moves or I win in the first 5 to 10 moves. Which is kind of sad, right? Because you want to play players that are strong enough that push you to the end. That you could play well enough that they're not either destroying you quickly or you're destroying them. All right?
Great.
All right. Anything else?
That's it. That's good. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, guys. We will see you next week. Same bat channel, same bat station.
Very good.
All right.
Thanks, Mark.
I'm glad you can make it, guys. Good night.
Thanks for your time.
Oh, my pleasure. Truly my pleasure.
All right, see you.
All righty. All right, guys. That part of the lesson is over. I still have 10 minutes left.